In episode 1, Daniel is shocked to see that his son Kenji is alive. The father and son hug. Daniel then orders the brats to stand down. Kenji is astonished at the fact that his dad runs Manta Corps now. Daniel explains that he took over Manta Corps after Jurassic World went down. The kids confront Daniel about all the possible outcomes that could have happened because of his mismanagement. Daniel questions his employee Cash for failing to keep the place up and running. He blames it on giving him too much freedom. Cash doesn't like what he's told and decides to turn on his boss. He activates the Brads and orders them to attack Kenji and his friends. Daniel overrides the machine. Cash attempts to flee, but a Brad arrests him. May gets injured during the fight and her wounds are reopened. Kenji and Co. enjoy their new rooms. Brooklyn feels that Daniel isn't telling them the complete truth and feels worried about Kenji. Daniel enters the lobby and checks up on them. He reveals that after the Jurassic World incident, the world turned on dinosaurs, so if anyone hears about the island, they could all be in trouble. He reassures them that Cash's way of doing things is over, and he'll pay for what he did to May. He then asks them to give him a few days to arrange getting them home safely and discreetly. The kids accept to do it for Kenji. The kids find it weird that they can't even call their families. Darius believes that Daniel is right to keep everything a secret for now. However, Ben thinks they should ask May what she thinks. May is sedated for the pain, so they refrain from asking her. On the screen, they see Cash jailed in a cell shouting. They head in to turn off the feed. Sammy confronts Cash and asks if her family is doing okay, as he promised. Brooklyn tries to strike a deal with him. She wants to know everything on Daniel, and in return she'll get him out. Cash informs her that she should check the files in Daniel's office if she wants to know what happened to Sammy's family. The girls don't free him though and leave him to his fate. Kenji tells his dad about all the adventures he had, but Daniel isn't listening. He is busy, given that Cash mismanaged the whole place. Now he has 2 days to catch up as he has an investor presentation coming up, so he needs to give the investors dinosaur fights. Kenji is against it though. Daniel insists that he has no choice. Besides, the Manta Corps board has no idea the island exists, so he needs to make profits as he invested heavily there. He promises Kenji not to drug the dinosaurs the way Cash did. Just then, a raptor tries to attack Kenji, but his dad saves him. Darius is worried about Big Edie as she's not eating. He attempts to feed her, but to no avail. He figures that she's sad. Brooklyn and Sammy sneak into Daniel's office. Brooklyn unlocks the drawer and the two find a file on Sammy's family ranch. It turns out Daniel owns it. Sammy is furious. Just then, Daniel shows up and Sammy confronts him. He shows her an exclusive contract that proves that he bought her parents' debt and made them his exclusive meat supplier. Sammy thanks him and he reassures her that her family is fine. Brooklyn explains that they don't trust people easily after everything that happened to them. He argues that he is Kenji's dad and he deserves to be believed. He warns that Kenji would be crushed if he hears about this and promises that it will stay between them. Darius tells Kenji that Big Edie won't eat as she is missing her daughter. Ben thinks they should reunite them. They ask him to speak to his dad. Kenji then learns that his dad has been helping Sammy's family and is glad to hear that. His friends get mad though when they learn that his dad is still doing dino fights to have new investors. The kids decide to show Daniel the other side to dinosaurs and maybe he'll change his mind. Daniel watches as the kids interact with Big Edie. Darius talks to her, hoping she'll remember him. Daniel then gets serious when Brooklyn tells him that the kids are gonna free her. He commands a brat to attack her and it does, despite Kenji's pleas. Darius tells Big Edie that they're gonna free her and he reminds her of their friendship. Kenji frees her from her binds and Big Edie joins her daughter. Now she feels much better. Kenji tells his dad that the T-Rex isn't a mindless predator as he claims them to be. Darius shows Daniel that thanks to May's research now, they can communicate with the dinosaurs on a rudimentary level. Kenji begs his dad not to let the dinosaurs fight. Daniel accepts and he's proud of his son. Kenji and his friends enjoy some snacks together. He reveals that he'll be helping his dad with a new presentation. Yaz bumps into Sammy, both holding their pillows and insomniac. They decide to have a sleepover. Daniel traps May in a room with Cash and Brad. He orders her to work with him and threatens her that if she doesn't, he'll harm the kids. Sammy and Yaz are having breakfast and feeling relieved to be finally safe. Darius and Brooklyn aren't relaxed though. They're suspicious of Kenji's dad and think he's a liar. Kenji is going to help his dad with the presentation. Darius wonders what it is about. Kenji isn't sure, but something to do with May's communication. Brooklyn wants to help, but Kenji declines as his dad needs to trust the person first before assigning them tasks. Darius and Brooklyn decide to spy on Mr. Khan to see if he does anything shady. Ben has actually seen him head into the jungle. Mr. Khan sees as the kids and Firecracker are approaching the facility, so he orders May to get rid of them. May tries to imply something, but the kids don't get it. All of a sudden, Firecracker hits her in the head. May gets angry and orders them all to leave. It turns out Mr. Khan and Cash are working on a new project that involves turning a T-Rex into a puppet. The kids realize what May was trying to say. They decide to head to the nursery since Cash was locked up there. They are surprised to see a Brad guarding Cash as it wasn't there the other day. They're even shocked to see that his cell is empty and Cash is gone. They realize that the Brad is there to hide the fact that he's out. They head to Cash's office and find out that there are drones in the forest biome. Brooklyn wants to check them out despite it being late. She doesn't mind being late for her date though. Kenji is prepping himself for his date with Brooklyn. Sammy and Yaz help him and make suggestions. They decorate the room with beautiful lights. The kids spot the drone and see as Cash uses them to control Big Edie movement and behavior. May notices how the dinosaur is fighting it and trying to move. Big Edie looks terrified. Mr. Khan gives his son his suit to wear for his date. He feels suspicious when he discovers that his son hasn't seen his girlfriend since the morning. On his phone, he spots the kids and Brooklyn snooping on his latest project. Brooklyn is torn about what to do now. She wants to tell Kenji, but it's not a topic to bring up during a date. She also doesn't want to break his heart. All of a sudden, they're surrounded by raptors. They attempt to attack the kids, but the drones stop them from doing so. Kenji dresses up and brings a flower for Brooklyn. Sammy and Yaz think he looks adorable and are astonished at the fact that he is a romantic at heart. The kids walk the perimeter carefully, looking for drones to evade the raptors' attacks and Big Edie's attacks. They hug the wall in order to get to the building. Big Edie spots them and screams at them. Kenji is heartbroken as Brooklyn never showed up. Mr. Khan checks up on him. He tells him that he saw Brooklyn hanging out with Ben and Darius and she was having fun. Kenji decides to attend the business event with his dad. He meets the potential investors Molina, Mr. Gold, and Cyrus. The kids manage to escape Big Edie and head inside the facility. Brooklyn is amazed at how beautifully decorated the room is and picks up the flower that Kenji meant to give her. They then sneak into where the investors' event is and see Kenji sharing his dinosaur stories with the investors. Brooklyn is afraid that he won't believe them. Brent believes that his brother Darius is still alive. He video chats with Roxy and Dave, who reassure him, saying that they believe him. Brooklyn apologizes to Kenji for standing him up. She informs him that his dad freed Cash, and now he's working with him and May to perfect dino control, but Kenji doesn't believe her. He's mad at her for sneaking around behind his back instead of showing up. Ben and Darius intervene and explain the situation, so Kenji decides to talk to his dad. Mr. Khan admits to Kenji that everything is true. He argues that he needs to show the investors something game-changing, or else they're out of business and the whole island gets shut down. The dinos would go hungry and uncared for, so Kenji understands the situation. Mr. Khan then tells his son that he wants him on board too, working with May. He wants to build the future of Manta Core with him. He also reveals that Brooklyn and Sammy broke into his office and even suggests that his friends don't trust neither of them. Brooklyn and Ben use the Brad to sneak into the facility. May is shocked to see them hidden in a box. She gives Brooklyn a power cell and implies that if they get within 5 feet of the control chips, they'll scramble them permanently, disabling them. The kids leave the box and take as many power cells as they can. All of a sudden, alarms start blaring, the Brad outside malfunctions and starts shooting randomly. Brooklyn and Ben escape and reunite with the other kids. She informs them that now they can fry the control chips. When they head back to their rooms, they find Kenji waiting for them. He claims that his dad is trying to save the dinosaurs just like they are. He asks them to stay out of it and trust him. But the kids decide to go behind Kenji's back and save the dinosaurs. Mr. Khan, Kenji, and the investors head to the presentation together. Cash catches up with them, but Mr. Khan dismisses him, stating that he's not needed. Cash isn't happy as he did all the work. Mr. Khan reminds him that he is still alive despite his betrayal in the swamp. 2 Brads then show up to escort him out, and Cash is furious. The presentation begins, and Mr. Khan explains how the investors can be the show with Manta Core technology. Kenji hands the investors a controller each. Meanwhile, the kids scramble to use the food platform and disrupt the presentation. The investors control the dinosaurs and raptors' movements, making them do different tricks. Molina feels the dino's teeth. Cyrus wants to have a battle royale with them. But Kenji is against it. Mr. Khan manages to convince him, claiming that they'll keep an eye on their damage level. Using the food platform, the kids manage to reach the presentation just in time. They see as the investors indulge in the dino fights. Brooklyn is shocked to see that Kenji is watching and doing nothing about it. The kids urge the investors to put down the controller chips as they're going to disable them. Mr. Khan figures that May is the one who told them. He's mad and tells Kenji that his friends are gonna ruin everything. Kenji decides to go talk to his friends. The investor Mr. Gold and Molina are annoyed with the kids and decide to attack them using the dinos. Big Edie almost hits Darius and Brooklyn, but Kenji comes just in time to save them. Cyrus is riding a dinosaur looking for Ben. The latter is on top of a tree. He jumps on the dino's head and causes Cyrus to fall. Ben plants the power cell in the dino's skin. The dinosaur is now free of control and attacks Cyrus. Mr. Gold orders the dino to attack Darius. Just then, Brooklyn attacks him from the back, but she's unable to get his controller. The dinosaur hits Darius with its tail, slamming him into a tree. All of a sudden, Mr. Gold's controller stops working, but the dinosaur doesn't attack Darius. It goes straight to Mr. Gold and attacks him. Sammy and Yaz are cornered by the 2 raptors controlled by Molina. Cash intervenes and takes away her controller. He plans to use the raptors and take his revenge from Mr. Khan, but the raptors attack him instead. Big Edie proceeds towards Mr. Khan's stand and stomps it. Kenji rushes to check up on his dad. He then activates the drones to guide the dinos back. He scolds his friends as he almost lost his dad. Mr. Khan is also furious as the investors are dead. It turns out Molina is still alive as she turns up. Her buyer, called Biosyn, is still on board. They're very interested in Manta core tech. Mr. Khan asks her to set up a meeting with them. He then imprisons all Kenji's friends. He promises that it's only for a few days while he meets his new buyer on Isla Nublar. Brooklyn and Darius try to reason with Kenji, but he won't hear it. He concludes saying that he's done with them and they're not family anymore. The kids are still imprisoned. Brooklyn is heartbroken at the fact that Kenji left them. A brat then shows up to account for the prisoners. Darius is monitoring the brat's schedule. He concludes that it patrols every half hour, which means they have 30 minutes to find a way to be out of there. Kenji, May, Molina, and Mr. Khan arrive at Isla Nublar. Kenji wonders whether the penthouse is safe, given that it is infested with dinosaurs, but Mr. Khan reassures him that his guys did a thorough sweep. Kenji is out of breath as he had to climb a lot of stairs to reach the penthouse. He reminisces the day he brought all his friends to hang out there and feels nostalgic. He wonders if he did the right thing with his friends and asks his dad. Mr. Khan assures him that he did it to keep his friends safe and also because he wanted to protect his family and company. Since the company Biosyn wants to see the control tech in action, Mr. Khan needs to demonstrate that with dinosaurs, he tasks Kenji with that given that he has expertise with them and knows the island well. Mr. Hawks then turns up. Kenji is shocked that his dad hired a bad guy who tried to kill him and his friends before. He shares his worries with May, who thinks that his dad is also an awful person. However, Kenji misinterprets her opinion and thinks that his dad is too trusting, so he makes the decision to accompany him. The kids try their best to escape the cell, but they fail miserably. Darius then figures the way out. Beneath them, he spots the sewers that he manages to open, but the smell is unbearable. They all jump except for Darius. The sewer's lid drops and the brat is alerted. They hear the brat approaching, so they scramble. A dangerous creature is also lurking in the waters that the kids are unaware of. They start gossiping about Kenji and how it is his fault they're walking in the sewers, but Brooklyn blames Mr. Khan for everything. Yaz doesn't like that she's defending her boyfriend, and Ben calls Kenji a jerk. He reveals how he used to make fun of him when they first met. Brooklyn, however, stresses that Kenji has changed now. Just then, a brat spots them and starts releasing knockout gas. The kids run away, but the brat chases them. Sammy trips and Darius helps her up. However, they lose sight of their friends. As Sammy and Darius wander in the tunnels, they come across the engine powering the whole island. They hear something moving in the water. An Anathosaurus comes out of it and starts chasing them. Yaz and Co. hear their screams and rush to their rescue. Yaz hits it in the head with a pipe, but that doesn't stop it from chasing them. The brat catches up with the kids, but they run the other way. The Anathosaurus attacks the brat and the two fight. The brat accidentally hits the pipes, causing the engine to overheat and the tunnel to collapse. Meanwhile, Darius's brother Brand, Roxy, and Dave reach the island in order to save the kids. Mr. Khan and Co. spot the dinosaur, but it's hostile towards them. May saves Mr. Khan as the dino almost stomped him. She notices that it is frightened and distressed. The kids finally escape the ordeal and manage to leave the tunnel using a food platform. Brooklyn tries to convince her friends that Kenji is a good guy who was just manipulated by his dad. Ben disagrees and the two fight. Meanwhile, Darius is checking two dinosaurs in the woods and notices that they're scared of something. He reminds his friends that their priority is the dinosaurs and not Kenji, so he urges them to figure out what's upsetting them. All of a sudden, the ground starts shaking, a powerful earthquake hits the island, Kenji and Mr. Hawks fall into the pit, where they're surrounded by raptors. Episode 5 opens with Kenji down in the pit, and Toro is there facing him. Mr. Hawks rides it but drops the controller. Toro slams him on the ground and proceeds to kill him, but Kenji intervenes and controls Toro with the Manta core tech. Sammy is worried about the dinosaurs. Despite the earthquake being over, they're still freaking out. Brooklyn suggests shutting down the drones. Darius thinks it's a good idea and decides to stay with the dinos and try to calm them using May's tablet. Mr. Khan reunites with his kid and decides to use Toro for his experiment to convince Biosyn to invest. Brand, Roxy, and Dave are in the woods looking for the kids. A baryonyx spots Brand and starts chasing him. Thankfully, his friends shoot it with a tranquilizer. Brand is worried about his brother, but Dave reassures him that Darius knows his way around dinos. The kids reach the facility. Brooklyn manages to locate the drones on the computer. Darius realizes that the EDs are scared of the drones, and as he climbs the tower, Brooklyn shuts them down. The EDs don't attack him, but just walk past him. May's tablet still reads that they're scared and in danger. Darius is still baffled as to why they are. Brooklyn finds out that the distress beacon they sent out from Nubler was received by Manta Core, but Mr. Khan didn't do anything about it. Sammy informs the kids that there was a drone on Nubler. Yas figures that they might be able to control it if it's still there. Brooklyn finds the drone and maneuvers it. The drone happens to be in the area where Brad, Roxy, and Dave are. Mr. Khan encounters more dinosaurs, and as Mr. Hawks is about to tranquilize them, May stops him. Using his controller, Kenji orders Toro to scream at them, and the dinos scramble away. The kids are watching via the drone. Brooklyn is heartbroken to see that Kenji supports his father in his plans. She walks out and heads to the lobby, where she starts breaking things, screaming, shocked that Kenji smiles while controlling the dinosaur. Her friends then show up and comfort her. They have some news to share. Ben knows that Mr. Khan is going to sell Biosyn chips, and he has to come back to the facility to produce them, which means they still have a chance to stop them. Brooklyn realizes that it's too late to convince Kenji, as he has chosen his side. Darius is tailing the EDs to try and tell them that the earthquake is over. He's unaware that beneath them the place is about to explode. All of a sudden, the ground starts shaking once more. In the facility, the kids hide under the desk. Mr. Khan and co. are astonished that the Parasaurolophus is running directly towards Toro the Predator. May realizes that something is not right. They then experience the earthquake. Boulders collapse on the ground, causing Kenji and his dad to split. Darius sees as Big Edie is stuck underneath a tree, and he promises to help her. Kenji is buried in a rock slide. Using the controller, he gets Toro to break the rocks to get him out. The kids learn that Darius is okay, but Big Edie's not. They show up in a winch truck in order to pull the tree trunk and save Big Edie. However, they're faced with another dinosaur who is hostile towards them and starts lifting the truck. Brooklyn manages to save Big Edie, and the two dinos walk away. Brand is starting to lose hope and thinks that Darius is long gone. Roxy points out that the kids are resourceful and shows him what they built. She reassures him that his brother is okay. The dinosaurs are not displaying evasive behavior anymore, so Darius figures that the earthquakes are over now. Brooklyn vents to Darius about seeing Kenji earlier controlling Toro. She starts crying and begs him to help her. She's angry, hurt, confused, and disappointed in herself for falling in love with him. Darius confesses that he doesn't trust him either, but they're friends and he forgives him. He apologizes for not being there for her when she needed him, and the two decide to mess with Mr. Khan's plans. Mr. Khan is worried about his son. Hawks reassures him that he'll find him. Just then, Kenji and Toro show up, ready for the presentation with Molina's client. Episode 6 opens with Mr. Khan wanting Kenji to do the demonstration. Molina then introduces the Khans to Louis Dodgson, head of research at Biosyn. The Khans intend to sell the mind control chips to him. Louis explains that Biosyn put a lot of money into dinosaurs, but then Isla Nublar crashed and burned, and now he looks like a fool. He wants to prove to the world that the dinosaurs aren't the bad investment. Masrani and Hammond were. He then hands Mr. Khan a list of dinosaurs that he would like to retrieve in order to see if the tech works on them. Louis doesn't like that they're taking directions from Kenji, but Mr. Khan argues that his son knows the dinosaurs and the island. Meanwhile, the kids intend to destroy the control chips as well as the blueprints. Darius, Ben, and Brooklyn go to Cash's office and delete the files. However, some brats are patrolling the area, so the boys decide to distract them, while Brooklyn heads alone to destroy the blueprints. However, she needs a password to delete them. She tries a combination of passwords, but that doesn't work. 3 brats then barge into the office and are about to attack them, when Brooklyn finds the password at the last second and disables them. Sammy and Yaz are in the workshop to destroy the chips. They're surprised to see the brats collapsing. Brooklyn decides to also change the password. That will lock the cons out of the system. Kenji and Co. come across Bumpy. As Hawks is about to tranquilize her, Kenji manages to protect her, stating that she's Ben's, who raised her from the time she was a baby. Mr. Khan warns Kenji not to embarrass him like that ever again. Louis then gets impatient as Kenji promised them a raptor, but she's nowhere to be found. Hawks decides to get the raptor to find them instead and starts making loud noises. Kenji warns him not to do that. A raptor then does show up. Hawks and his men chase her in the woods. Louis accidentally finds and retrieves the old Barbasol can with the embryos that Dennis Nedry had stolen from him back in 1993. The group attempts to capture Blue, but she leads them into a Dilophosaurus nest that they narrowly escape from. Louis almost gets attacked by one of them until Mr. Khan comes in with a flare and saves him. Kenji is sad for the way his dad treats him and confides in May. He states how sometimes he's treated like a partner and confidant, and other times he feels like a disappointment. May thinks that he doesn't have to try and make his dad money in order to earn his love. The group captures and enslaves several dinosaurs, including Toro and Limbo. Molina attempts to make off with Louis's pack, but Kenji chases her and stops her, and she is eaten by a pack of compies. Pleased, Louis makes a deal with Mr. Khan to manufacture and ship the chips to Biosyn within 2 weeks. He offers to double Daniel's pay and price if he delivers them during that period. Sammy and Yaz are in the woods sitting around a bonfire and burning the chips. Brooklyn, Ben, and Darius show up and they celebrate their victory while roasting some marshmallows. The 7th episode opens with the kids discussing ways to protect the dinosaurs from Mr. Khan, who's coming back. Darius then figures out a way. He remembers that all the dinosaurs got along at the watering hole. The kids spot a drain and decide to plug it up in order to fill up the whole area with water. Darius, Brooklyn, and Sammy are faced with Big and Little Edie who are playing, so Darius and Brooklyn distract them while Sammy plugs up the drain. Ben and Yaz gather their dinosaur friends Angel and Rebel. However, they encounter some problems with Firecracker. Ben lures her out with leaves, but she refuses to follow him at first. While alone with Ben, Yaz admits that she has a crush on Sammy, and she isn't sure what to do about it. Angel then alarms them that Firecracker is missing. She then runs past them. Meanwhile, Brooklyn and Darius are still being chased by the 2 Edies. They climb the tower, but they're trapped. Ben, Yaz, and Firecracker encounter 2 Dilophosaurus and run away from them. They manage to evade them. Sammy figures that stopping the water from draining isn't enough, so she enters the tunnels to increase the water flow to their chosen spot, and encounters and evades a surviving Bradex. Brooklyn and Darius manage to distract the big Edies by throwing pine cones at pterosaurs. Once out of the tunnel, Sammy gets chased by pterosaurs, but she evades them by jumping off the waterfall. Their plan succeeds, and all the kids sit around the watering hole with the dinosaurs. The 2 Edies show up hostile at first, but upon seeing the water, they calm down and gather peacefully. All the kids then jump off the cliff for a swim. Episode 8 opens with Lewis demanding that Manta Corps acquire DNA samples from some of the nublar dinosaurs before leaving. Lewis praises Daniel for his son's good upbringing and describes Kenji as being loyal. Mr. Khan notices that his son changed his clothes back into his old outfit. Kenji claims that it's because it's easier to move around wearing them. May is feeding the dinos so that they're loaded into the trucks. Kenji notices that she is sad. He tries to comfort her. Just then, Daniel overhears their conversation and interrupts them. He tasks her with collecting the DNA samples. While collecting the samples, May finds herself entranced by the beauty of the free dinosaurs. Roxy, Dave, and Brendan have been searching the island for the kids, but without success. They then come across a camp littered with trash. They enter one of the tents filled with flies, and the smell is so unbearable that Dave barfs. Kenji finds some keys in his dad's jacket and steals them. He manages to fix the boat's Wi-Fi and informs Daniel. Kenji then heads out to play with Toro, but his dad advises him not to get too attached as it belongs to Lewis now. May and Hawks are walking in the woods to collect more samples when they hear some strange noises. A Ceratosaurus rushes towards them, but he manages to tranquilize it for a second, because given its size and metabolic profile, it needs more, but Hawks won't listen, and the Ceratosaurus rises and hits him, but he manages to tranquilize it with more shots. Mr. Khan discovers that the kids escaped the cell and he's livid. Kenji discovers that his father captured Bumpy despite promising to leave his friend alone. He promises to get him out of there. May learns that the kids escaped and the brats are shut down. She betrays Manta Corps and destroys the samples by throwing them into the river. Mr. Khan is alerted and orders his goons to capture May. Kenji decides to go with them to look for her. Kenji, filled with growing doubt, turns on his father completely and helps May escape. She intends to go back to London and work at her uncle's fishery. She's tired of seeing people like Mr. Khan take something pure like dinos and correct them for profit. All of a sudden, a baryonyx comes attacking a group of Parasaurolophus. However, they manage to escape. May observes geriatric caretaking with Parasaurolophus and she is amazed. She sees how they hide the old one and protect her. Kenji chooses to return to his father rather than risk Daniel staying to look for him. He and May bid farewell. Mr. Khan is still hung up on May, but Kenji convinces him to focus on his business deal and forget about her. May finds the trio and offers them her help. Episode 9 opens with Yaz running in the woods. She tells Ben that she forgot how good it feels to run for fun and not because something is chasing them. She decided to tell Sammy how she feels. Ben is happy for her and advises her to do it now. Meanwhile, Sammy is feeding the two Eddies. She is joined by Yaz, who is about to confess her feelings, but gets interrupted by Brooklyn and Darius. Brooklyn managed to set up a drone to patrol the perimeter of the island. Now, they'll get an alert as soon as the Khans return. She then records them on her tablet because she thinks someone needs to know that they survived Nublar. Darius believes they don't have to wait for the Khans to act first. His plan is to trap them in the facility as soon as they land, then take their drone plane, go to the mainland and get help. The kids still need to figure out how to keep the doors shut automatically. While Sammy and Yaz chat, the door closes between them and they get separated. The alarms then start blaring. Brooklyn can't open the doors as the whole system's malfunctioning. Yaz manages to open it and save Sammy. They flee the facility and learn that the geothermal energy core is malfunctioning. Brooklyn explains that the earthquakes are caused by the drill located near a fault line. That drill gives the core its power. The kids head down the tunnel where the Bradex and the Nothosaurus are. The smell is even more unbearable. They see as the Brad is destroyed. Brooklyn disables the alarms, but toxic gases are still emanating. She realizes that the whole core is overheating. Yaz gets attacked by the Nothosaurus, but as it gets near the gas, it passes out. Darius suggests stopping the gas by taping up the pipe. Sammy won't leave though without saving the Nothosaurus, so they carry him outside. Darius and Brooklyn head back inside. Darius fixes the leak and Brooklyn tries to cool the core. He sees as Brooklyn isn't back yet, so he heads back inside and spots Brooklyn passed out on the ground. He manages to pull her out to safety. As Sammy, Ben, and Yaz ride the food platform, Yaz finally confesses her feeling to Sammy and how she likes her a lot. The Nothosaurus rises behind Yaz and proceeds to hit her, but she's saved by Sammy. They do their best to dodge its attacks. The three kids then jump on the dinosaur, but it slams them on the ground. A Dilophosaurus then shows up, but the Nothosaurus comes out of the water and attacks it. Darius confesses that he feels like a jerk trying to set up his best friend once he set foot on the island. Brooklyn reassures him that Kenji is the one who lost his way, and not him. Yaz finally gets to confess her feelings to Sammy, which she reciprocates. Sammy reveals that she's been wanting to hear her say that, and kisses her best friend. Brooklyn sees them and starts cheering. The perimeter drone then starts beeping. Brooklyn warns her friends that the cons arrived. The kids see as the trucks pull up with the dinosaurs. They're shocked to see Kenji controlling Toro. Darius is disappointed in his friend once more, especially as he sees that Bumpy was also captured. The 10th episode opens with Mr. Khan and his mercenaries arriving at the facility with the dinosaurs. Kenji learns from his dad that his friends escaped, so the reason Daniel captured the Ankylosaurus is in order to motivate Kenji's friends in case they try something dangerous again. Mr. Khan then tasks his mercenaries with taking the dinosaurs to the jungle biome and set up camp outside the compound. Ben wants to rescue Bumpy, but Darius advises him to come up with a plan first. All the kids run after him, trying to stop him. They're then astonished to see that Kenji is friends with Hawks. Mr. Khan discovers that the chips are gone and the workshop is trashed. He tells his son and Hawks that there is a backup of the chip schematics in a flash drive in the jaw of one of the Bradexes. Daniel decides to put Kenji in charge of the assets. He wants the dinosaurs to be in perfect condition for Dodgson. Ben decides to follow Kenji as he might lead him to Bumpy. He tasks his friends with getting that flash drive first. On the computer, Brooklyn checks where all the Bradexes went down. Sammy calls Yaz her girlfriend for the first time and likes the sound of it, but then she feels guilty for laughing when her friends Darius and Brooklyn seemed heartbroken when they saw Kenji. She suggests putting a lid on their relationship until their friends feel better. Mr. Khan is livid when he discovers that the kids changed the password. He orders his men to find the flash drive and capture the campers so that he can access his computer. Ben sees as Hawks' men mistreat his friend Bumpy. Kenji then shows up. An angry Ben confronts him about what he did to Bumpy, but Kenji swears that he tried to stop his dad. He is remorseful and deeply apologetic. He decides to help Ben get Bumpy back. Darius, Yaz, Brooklyn, and Sammy search the biomes for the flash drive. Sammy suggests telling Yaz in code how she makes her feel without rubbing it in her friends' faces. The kids find nothing and decide to keep moving. They're unaware that Hawks and his men are following them. Kenji heads to the compound and claims that his dad sent him. He tricks Hawks' men into leaving to investigate a strange noise. Ben gets a chance to reunite with his friend Bumpy as he hugs her. He pushes her to get her to move, but to no avail. He even tries to tempt her with fresh berries, but she won't budge. He refuses to control Bumpy when Kenji comes to help. He then loses his cool and throws the controller, breaking it. They discover that smashing the controller breaks the mind control. However, they're a bit late, as one of the mercenaries grabs another controller and makes Bumpy hostile towards them. She hits them and chases them. Kenji attempts to snatch the controller, but the other goon shows up and seizes his arm. Bumpy hits Ben and slams him against the cage. Ben cries, but comforts Bumpy, stating that he knows it isn't her fault and that he forgives her. Bumpy is about to hit him, but refrains from doing so at the last minute. Kenji manages to break the controller, and Bumpy licks Ben's face. Ben climbs her back, and the two dash into the guards. Sammy warns her friends that they're being followed. Darius plans to lead Hawks and his men to the Spinosaurus. The kids know how to hide from it, but the men don't. Hawks and his men enter the cave and are immediately chased by Spinosaurus. Brooklyn and Darius state how happy they are for Yaz and Sammy, adding that they don't have to speak in a secret language anymore. Brooklyn manages to find the flash drive, however Hawks attacks with the mind-control Spinosaurus. It almost attacks Brooklyn, but Darius intervenes and saves her. Hawks retrieves the drive, but Mr. Khan remains locked out of the computer. Darius decides to blow the circuit on the doors. They leave one door open for Ben and Bumpy. He orders the girls to disable the food platform so that the Khans don't get to them that way. Ben and Bumpy reunite with the kids. He also brings Kenji, and the campers are shocked by his return. In the 11th episode, the kids are still mad at Kenji, but Ben intervenes. He reminds them that he helped save Bumpy and deserves a second chance. Kenji apologizes to the group and explains that he had this idea of who his dad was, but now he knows he was wrong. Brooklyn is still feeling disappointed and states how she thought she knew who he was. Kenji promises that he's the same person and he'll prove it to her. Sammy then jumps on him and hugs him. She gives him a quick update on everything that has happened so far. Kenji is surprised but happy about Yaz and Sammy's relationship. He is accepted back into the group, although Darius remains angry and reluctant to forgive him. While the kids discuss their next move, they hear Toro behind the door, controlled to break it. The kids scramble. Mr. Khan instructs Hawks to bring him the kids, but leave Kenji alone. Darius urges his friends to protect the dinosaurs and get them out of there. Sammy and Yaz take care of the babies, while Darius tries to get the two Eddies to run, but the two just chill and won't move. Ben and Brooklyn ride Bumpy and buy the other kids some time. Darius figures that the Eddies are staying to defend their territory instead of running away, so he decides to get ready to fight. Mr. Khan shows up with the dinos. He proposes they give him the password and he walks away, or else he'll attack. The kids refuse, and so the dinosaurs get into a big fight. Kenji and Brooklyn manage to stomp one controller. Yaz and Sammy protect the babies from the attacks, but Firecracker runs away. Toro hits Darius, but Kenji joins him. Mr. Khan sees as Sammy enters the cave with Firecracker. He follows her and tries to manipulate her into giving him the password. She hits him and vows to destroy him. Yaz and Brooklyn manage to break the second controller and set another dinosaur free. Little Edie comes to save Darius and Kenji, but she gets attacked from all sides. Kenji grabs Darius' tablet and uses it to create a reflection to blind the dinos. One of Tyrannosaurus grabs a mercenary and flies away with it. May's tablet gets broken in the process, and Darius is furious. He questions Kenji and why he bailed on them before. Kenji apologizes, but the two get interrupted when they see Toro being tortured by the mercenary. They join forces and grab the last controller, break it, and free the dino. Kenji states that he can't change the past, but he promises not to abandon him or the dinosaurs ever again. Darius cries, and the two friends hug. Mr. Khan grabs his controller and summons all the dinosaurs to corner Little Edie. Big Edie joins the fight, killing Limbo, but she is killed by the Spinosaurus, and the kids are shocked. The final episode opens with the friends sensing that the dinosaurs are afraid and wonder where they're going. Darius wants to help, but Brooklyn says there is nothing they can do. They get emotional and have no choice but leave. Mr. Khan instructs his men to go get the facility's secret password from the kids. Big Edie, the T-Rex, is shown to be dead. The kids are actually hiding atop a tree. Yaz is concerned about their safety and points out how cruel Mr. Khan is for killing Big Edie. Brooklyn suggests leaving the island. Darius thinks they must get to the boat. Sammy won't leave the dinosaurs fend for themselves, though. Mr. Khan receives no news about the kids' whereabouts, so to try and get them to come out, he modifies the island's climate. He also doesn't want his deal with Biosyn to fail. The kids move underground, evading danger, trying to get to the boat, so they can finally escape the ordeal. Brooklyn is grabbed and nearly hurt by a dinosaur as he drags her around, but Kenji saves her. The dinosaur comes back, so Brooklyn instructs him to keep going, and the group splits. Yaz, Sammy, and Ben also struggle as they're evading Mr. Khan's goon. He looks for the kids in the warehouse as they hide behind containers. The security guard gets hold of Yaz, and armed with a metallic bar, he attempts to hit her with it. But a raptor shows up, and they all have to evade its attacks. Fortunately, the raptor grabs the men, and the kids manage to escape. Kenji and Darius are running away, but they get separated. Mr. Khan turns up and tells Darius that as soon as he starts making the chips for Biosyn, the carnage can end. Darius vows to never give him the password. Mr. Khan then orders the dinosaur to attack him. Kenji stands in the way and offers to reveal the password in return for Darius's life. He divulges the password, which is Camp Femme for Life. Mr. Khan initiates the chip manufacturing. He also describes his son as being so eager to please. Mr. Khan attacks Darius with the dinosaur anyway, citing that he doesn't like loose ends. But luckily for Darius, Big Edie comes to the rescue and attacks the other dinosaur. She is alive. Suddenly, the island core starts overloading. Darius explains to Mr. Khan that it happened before. While he was gone, the core started going haywire, and an earthquake occurred. Poisonous gas also emanated. Mr. Khan figures that something's drawing too much power. He realizes that it's the chips making. He warns that there won't be any safe place on the entire island and runs away to his private plane. But his son Kenji reminds him that his friends are still on the island. Mr. Khan deplores the fact that his son always lets his emotions cloud his judgment. Kenji is ashamed of his father and how he doesn't care about other people. He even wonders if after Jurassic World, when he thought he was dead, his father looked for him. He tells him that he is staying with his friends, his real family. His father boards the plane and takes off. It turns out it was all a ploy. The critical overload of the facility was to panic Kenji's father and prompt him to flee. There was no overload. The dinosaurs will remain safe. Roxy, Dave, and Brand arrive by boat on the island. The kids are surprised. Darius sees his brother Brand and rushes to hug him. Brand tells him that his father would have been so proud of him. The kids leave the island and sail away. Brooklyn tells Kenji that the police have taken his dad into custody. Kenji is now all alone. She offers him support and kisses him. The media discusses the Noobler Six being rescued and reunited with their families. When the kids return to the mainland, they reunite with their relatives. Sammy with her dad, Yaz with her mom. Ben's mother kisses him over and over again, but Kenji is alone, so Darius and his mom hug him. An older Darius explains that the Noobler Six survived thanks to them working together, trying to understand each other, and leaving things better than they found them. He and Kenji are living together. Darius replies to comments on social media, but Kenji advises him not to. They then video chat with the girls who are in Texas, hanging out with Sammy's family. Ben is spending the summer on their island. Brooklyn is on a secret mission and advises her friends to keep their eyes open. She is still going out with Kenji. Darius hears a few thuds, looks out his window, and sees a dinosaur. He smiles, and the credits roll. It seems like Camp Cretaceous is still in operation with the help of the original 6.